Take the Leap is the podcast where we get real about the roller coaster that is entrepreneurship and life. Sure, some folks make running a business look like a walk in the park, but let's be honest, it's more like a wild ride through a theme park with a lot of unexpected twists and turns.
Join us, your co-hosts, Ashlan
and Tory,
as we spill the beans on our own real-life experiences and shine a spotlight on some amazing guests. From the highs of success stories to the lows of epic failures. And hey, we'll even throw in some cringe-worthy, laugh-out-loud, embarrassing moments for good measure.
So buckle up and tune in every Tuesday and Thursday for a dose of raw, unfiltered truth about what it's really like to chase your dreams and build a business.
Whether you're a seasoned entrepreneur or just dipping your toes into the startup world, we've got something for everyone. Even if it's just to make you think, wow, I'm glad I didn't do what they did.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Take the Leap podcast. We are very to have our Mary Williams back, the CEO and founder of Sensible Woo, home of the School of Moxie podcast, a librarian by trade who established herself in the entertainment industry as the digital archivist for a major animation production studio. She has consulted for not only entertainment companies, but also marketing agencies, tech startups, and nonprofit fundraising organizations, and has helped both of us through a lot of different things. For the last 8 years, she's been a business coach for highly sensitive neurodivergent business owners, championing the focus on systems and data management as a solid foundation for sustainable businesses that scale. The motto at Sensible Woo is that you are always your best system, which means embracing the magic of your intuitive side is just as important as the data your business produces. Mary has been an online creator since 2010, which makes her a tough old bird in the online entrepreneurship community, and you should definitely ask her about all the crazy shit she's seen people do online over the years. You can travel with Mary as she records guests in studios through her weekly emails, YouTube, Instagram, and Threads. Welcome back, Mary.
Welcome back. We're so happy to have
We're
you.
in person.
Yeah,
we're going to make it work. I will also say shout out to Kiln in Southeast Portland that is letting us borrow their podcast recording studio for this episode. They were lovely, actually, for something else we were here for.
We were here for a freelancers union, and it's a lovely community. It's a beautiful space.
It's a really nice space. If you're looking for cool co-working spaces in Portland, definitely check this out.
Yeah, we could hook up other microphones, but
this is more fun.
This is more fun. I like sitting like this. It's like we're about to tell like we're like in an old cottage and there's like a fire going and we're like leaning in and we're like, okay, we got to tell you about this. It's so exciting.
I will say we are recording right before Halloween, so maybe it's spooky stories of entrepreneurship.
Oh, we got a few of those.
We got a few of those. We were talking about them before we hit record. I'm going to be back next week here reading tarot for the business community.
Perfect.
So, in case you wanted to know what kind of a place it is.
Yeah. Super
perfect.
fun.
It's perfect.
Absolutely.
Well, welcome back, Mary. We're really excited to have you. The last time we had you on, we did your Take the Leap story, why you went out into business for yourself, kind of your journey, how you got here today, little things like that. And today we kind of want to do a little more of a deep dive into kind of business now and what's going on. So I guess, why don't we just start by catching up? How are things going in your world? What kind of things are you seeing?
Oh, so many things. So in my world, I have continued my pivot. I have very slowly been phasing out coaching, which I've been doing a long time. And I think last year when we talked, it had not been too long since I had shut down Incubator, right?
Yes.
Yep. So that is more than a year past. And I've been doing Voxer coaching in the meantime, not for tons of people, but for the amount of traffic that comes through. They have a place to go, which has been very satisfying. It's asynchronous.
Yeah.
I've been moving into a lot of asynchronicity in general. So the paid newsletter with the tarot readings that come out every Sunday, that is also asynchronous. And what I'm discovering is that the asynchronicity is giving me more scalability because I do have caregiving in my life, and life is crazy. And also, I personally have a philosophy. I do not feel like we need to be on Zoom all the time anymore.
Agreed.
And I started to notice once I had distance from incubator, I really saw it then, how much people have, since COVID broke out and got online, have trained themselves to show up to be seen on camera. And so they're not being vulnerable in this space where they need to be vulnerable in order to correct the things that they need to and have their breakthroughs and all of that. And I find that having the asynchronous space to talk, it does two things. One of the things is it drops the news anchor persona. That's what I call it.
Oh, yeah.
And then the other thing is the asynchronicity means I am not in front of them to respond to them immediately. And it forces them to then sit with their thoughts in what they just said. And 9 times out of 10, I'll see a follow-up voice note within an hour or less. And they'll be like, so then I decided to go do this thing and I took action. And I'm like, can I point out to you how much I did not do that for you? You did that for you. And you think that actually in coaching, we're kind of not that live immediate interaction isn't still needed, because it is. But I think for the typical coaching relationship, which is a long-term relationship, to have more waiting time is healthy. And so, I mean, it has been a giant experiment. I've been playing with it. So that has really been sort of like the big aha. And I've discovered how much of the work I have been doing has been behind the scenes, that hasn't been super visible, even though like I still show up on my social, I still show up in emails, I still have my YouTube channel. Like I do all those things and still podcasting, but I do a lot of work behind the scenes in other places or in private invite only spaces now. And I find that really interesting because it's giving me more like a deeper connection with people faster. And I had a theory at the top of this year of 2024 that the best connections were going to start happening in private invitation only spaces. And now we're in the 4th quarter. And I think for myself, I can definitely like hit a bunch of green check marks on that theory. I've experienced it. I've heard about it from other people. I've seen it in other spaces. And I think like the days of the big open free thing where everyone's just throwing business cards out is really not, it's still going to be around, but the effectiveness of it is gone.
Well, it's quality over quantity, right?
Yeah.
I think that is something that we frequently lose sight of. And I know one of the things that you switched for your Voxer container is to actually have people like apply to be a part of it and have thoughts on how it's going to go, you know, what would be useful to them, how it's going to go. Because sometimes I think people reach out to us to help with their businesses and they're like, they don't have a vision of what the long term is.
They just
and
know
so
they
it's
need
like,
help.
they just know they need help. Yeah. And you're like, I can't vision cast for you.
No.
Like,
and I also find that, again, the asynchronicity of you have to fill out a form on your own forces you to be with yourself and your thoughts, and you can't run away from yourself because I'm not in the room with you in that moment. So I can't compensate for you socially or empathetically or, you know, because I've had people, I realized, I was like, oh, that's not a healthy pattern, where they'll kind of look to me like, well, what do you think? And of course, the coaching hat's going to go on, but it's like, no, I want your unfiltered answers to these questions. And that additional friction allows people who are honestly not ready to step away, because the questions are hard and they're meant to be hard. And I've encouraged people to just go in and fill out the form, because I was like, it's a form of coaching. So you can fill it out. I respond to anybody who submits to the form, no matter what. And it's not a pressure sales kind of thing. I let everyone know who's ready. I'm like, here's the subscription. Here's how it works. You know, if you want to, here's the link, and they get it then. And sometimes I'll get people who they want like a conversation, and depending on what's going on, like I'll humor a conversation, but there are some people who they want a conversation, and I'm like, no, there's no conversation here
without purchasing the subscription.
because the conversation you need is a paid coaching conversation.
Right.
And it would be unethical for me to lead you through coaching that you need when I just need to sell you the seat. So you need to decide you're going to buy it or not. And I changed my pricing a lot this year too. So I used to have a $10,000 a year program, and now it's $497 a month, which is totally different.
Yeah.
And one of the tests in that too, I'm definitely testing people when they're coming through that process, is what does that price point do when you hear it? So when somebody says, oh my God, that's so much. I know as a business owner that $500
For a month
is nothing.
Yeah. No, $497 like a week. Because
it's not a lot.
It's not a lot.
And it tells me what level they are in business.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And I can make that determination from there. So it's information for them and it's information for me. I would say in fewer instances, we're able to have a vulnerable conversation where I'm like, I'm just going to give you some feedback on like just sort of levels of development, and not that 500 is anything to sneeze at, but if it like sparks anxiety, it's either a therapy thing and you need to go literally talk to a therapist about money trauma, or it is a developmental thing where you literally have never paid $500 for something. Yes, maybe I'll be the first, maybe not. I don't know. Do you need to pay $10,000 for everything you do in business? No, I would argue not. And I feel a lot better about offering things at a more equitable price right now because we've had a very flat economy. Inflation's been horrible. The coaching industry is tanking, and a lot of my people come from the coaching industry. I've had a lot of people tell me that they're on like the last amount of dollars that they can invest in places. And I'm always like, I am not going to push you or rush you. But like it's a real thing, and I want to respect that, but also it's my time and years of expertise. So, it can't all be free calls. Mama's got to pay her bills.
And also if people are searching for free calls, that's when like they're not ready.
They're ready.
Looking for a quick Band-Aid or a quick solution. And you can't just be that for everybody.
Yeah. And it doesn't matter how much money you've made in the past, and it doesn't matter how many followers you have online. The anxiety that you might have around how you handle tough times tells me the business level maturity where you're at. And if somebody's ready to commit and say, you know what, yes, I am going to have long form conversation with you, at least for 1 month, I'm like, great, you're ready to dig in and do the work, and I will help you with that. I've not had one person who did not get their breakthrough, whether it was like, oh shit, I need to make some money. I'm like, well, then let's make some money, or I've had some where I was like, I hear this a lot more now. Like, I need one of me for me. And they're more advanced coaches who are going through a pivot period. And they're like, I just need to talk it out, and it can't be me. And I need somebody else. And so I help them with that, to find the joy again in what they're doing and their big why.
Yeah. I remember there was a point in time that you and I were talking about having people you can talk to who have 6-figure problems versus, other business 6 and 7-figure problems, as opposed to like just getting started out.
I had that last year because I was doing the conference circuit, and we were in Denver, and I was at dinner with these people. And we were all kind of like confessing what was going on. I was like, I don't want to sound like an asshole at the table. But I was like, I'm having 6-figure problems, and I need to talk with other people who are solving 6-figure problems. Because if you're still solving 4-figure problems, you don't have the other systems in place. You don't have the marketing in place. You also don't have the dollar spend in place that I have. And so you're not going to be able to soundboard what I need. Not that an opinion or a viewpoint can't be valuable in that instance, but like the scale at which you think when you're thinking 6-figure problems is just different.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was actually really, really inspiring yesterday with the conference that I was at. The closing keynote speaker talked about going after 10x instead of 2x. And I was just like, oh, this is so interesting. And it's true, because there's only a finite number of ways that you will get to 10x,
Mhm.
but there's a lot of different ways you can get to 2x, and people spin in that of, oh God, if I do this, then I'm not doing that, then I'm doing this, and I'm not doing that. And it's just like, we were just talking about this, choose a fucking lane.
Yep.
Just choose a lane and stick to it and see what happens and learn, don't call things failure, learn from it, pivot.
Like if it doesn't work, don't do it again.
Yeah.
But try it.
Yeah.
See it through.
Yeah.
See it through.
And it's funny because after we all talked last year, you guys pointed out to me and you're like, Mary, you really try a lot of things. And I'd never seen it like that before. And I was like, I think I do.
You do.
And that's great.
Yeah. I was like, I like piloting. I mean, I taught piloting all through COVID, but I find it really valuable to test and get data. I'm like, how do I know that something doesn't have value if I don't get some return back to figure out?
Well, it's just like tech agile process.
Yes.
Waterfall, agile, and
Maybe
I know you come from that space. It's from your tech space, but it's like, you do sprints and you do, you test, you learn. There's still bugs in it. There's still problems. Ratchet it back. Do it differently. So yeah.
It's weird times right now, huh?
Super weird. I love the way you said that. I'm like,
weird times. Well, kind of pivoting a little bit, I want to kind of move into a part of the conversation that we've just had many of these conversations before, so I'm excited to keep this going. So you and I are also in a book club together, and it's called the Feral Book Club. Shout out to our friends in Feral Book Club.
5 chili peppers.
Yep. And we mostly just read smut.
Yeah.
We read some other things that aren't smut too, but
we don't like it though.
We don't like it. No, we only like smut. And it kind of just, like talking about like all the things that you do, your podcast, and just kind of like a lot of the conversations we have. You like to talk about business in ways that aren't boring.
Thank you.
And I love that. And we're trying to do that too in our conversations, because it's just, we don't need another book written by a man who's already rich. We don't need advice from somebody who's literally been given the funds to start their own business. We need to be looking at business in a different way. And so I kind of just want to open up that conversation of, why do you think people should be reading smut or fantasy or just nonfiction fiction in general, to help get them to be creative again when thinking about their businesses? What do you think about that? What are your thoughts?
So many thoughts.
What are your thoughts?
First of all, we are 360-degree individuals. Mm-hmm. So why would you segregate something that brings you genuine joy away from your business, which also, newsflash, needs to have joy in it?
Right.
Because if your customers aren't feeling joy, they ain't buying from you. So then there's also the second thing, which is, maybe it is like the current romance fantasy craze that we have all bought into. Maybe it's a TV show. Like last year for first season of School of Moxie podcast, we watched The Last of Us, which was going crazy in the zeitgeist, right?
Oh my gosh. I mentioned that in the podcast accelerator because they were like, what could people podcast about? And I was just like, so my friend, I went to this thing, I told them about the podcast movement, and they're like, but you didn't have a podcast then. I was like, no, but I was going to be on a friend's podcast.
We recorded there.
We recorded there in Denver. Yeah. And they were like, oh, what was it about? And I was like, about the TV series The Last of Us, but using it to like analyze problems that we have in business. And they're like, oh, I saw so many light bulbs go off with people of like,
oh, we don't have to be boring.
Yeah.
No, I think well, you see the same structure happen again and again. Like, how many podcasts are online? And yes, we're having a conversation. So it's like talk radio. Like, if you don't enjoy conversation, podcasts probably aren't your thing, right? But the same rigid format of, I have to have the influencer on with the big list, and then we have this boring preset list of questions, and they're just copying John Lee Dumas from EO Fire from years ago, and they're just doing it again and again and again. And unless somebody has some material that is so unique and compelling, where you're like, the idea itself is so interesting, like, that's why we loved Barbara Walters back in the day, or she would do her interviews, or Oprah's. Oh God, I miss Oprah's old show. Yeah. And like, I love a good conversation, I do, but it's like, as business owners who are not celebrities, why are we here? Like, what are we talking about? Like, I completely respect everybody's backgrounds. Everybody's very special. And at the same time, like, how do we actually connect? And, figuring out how you connect with you first is really, really important. And, I've always been a TV movie lover. And then with all the somatic therapy I've been doing over the last like 2 years, I was finally able to start reading again. And then after we recorded last year, we finally got together in person, and Victoria and I did. And we were sitting across from each other at this cafe, and it just sort of like started to tumble out. And then we were like, oh my God, you're reading the same thing I'm reading. Like, I love it. I love it. And she's like, do you want to borrow the rest of my series? And I was like, yes, I do. And then she read the one that I had just finished, and it became this whole thing. And it's developed this really strong partnership. Well, lo and behold, there were a bunch of other people who are also business owners who wanted to hop in. And we have passed referrals and support to each other in ways that are incredibly deep and impactful, that, speaking of private invite-only spaces, is not going to happen by going to the
Chamber of Commerce
event. Yep. Not that the Chamber of Commerce networking event isn't valuable, but like, it's not the same, and you don't connect with people in the same way. And it's very transactional when you go into those spaces. And in these spaces, because we're talking about fiction, it's inevitable that what's happening in your business or what's happening in life is also coming out. Or we end up we have a private like text thread going on, and we send memes on the regular, but some of them are masters in like marketing master classes. Like, it is amazing. And I'm like, that is a fantastic format. That is a great idea. Maybe I should use that with my client over here. Oh, guess what? It works, and so I think like the joy of it is important. There's another book club that I follow online. She actually has like a whole business around it, and I think it's called the Morbidly Curious Book Club.
I've heard of that.
Yes, I think I sent it to you before. And
yes,
and they only read nonfiction, and it's like dark stories about like plagues and disasters in history, and they're just like really into it. And some of the titles are fascinating to me. I'm just totally in my smutty fiction era right now. But like, they have a whole community in there too. And you think, like, you can see how people are finding each other in very special ways, and readers love to talk with other readers no matter what.
Oh, totally.
Yeah. But it also shows that you're more than just a one-dimensional being. So, when you listen to the very traditional podcast or YouTube interview, and they're like, well, what are you doing outside of your business? And the person's like,
all I do is read more nonfiction about how to be better at my business.
Good at business. Yeah.
It's like, you're like, I take cold plunges in the morning. I'm like, that is not a personality.
No.
I'm like, I want to know what you think about the comparison in wing size. Okay. I want to know that answer to that. I want to know who your favorite dragon is in Fourth Wing. That's what I want to. It's going to tell me who you are. It's going to tell me how we're going to bond. If we have fun disagreeing with each other, it tells you like what kind of relationship you have. And it's so much more important than like, oh, those silly little novels. But then like the romance industry in general, and I'm going to go on a soapbox here for a second. Like, I mean, that is predominantly very female heavy. It has been marginalized for a long time, even though economically it is a juggernaut. And when I was still in libraries, the majority of the purchasing budget went towards romance.
Oh, of course.
But we don't take women seriously.
And so I think like there's also this really interesting business case happening at the same time, and it's fascinating to me. And I want to be involved in there somehow. I want to see it happening in real time.
Well, even the way that they write female characters, I know that this is something that we talked a little bit about with the Akatar series. The way that George R.R. Martin writes folks, how Sarah J. Maas writes folks, and then I can't remember the other series that somebody was talking about in the group that they were like, oh, I really don't like it. There's like rapey themes in it, and I was like, oh, good to know. Like,
well, I mean, like, there's a whole genre of dark romance, and there are in quotes, taboo,
Mm-hmm.
type things in there. And there are preferences that everyone has,
Mm-hmm.
but like being able to ask yourself, why do I like the subgenre that I do?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Why? You put words around it. So when you're having a business problem and you're like, why do I have the problem that I do? It's like, well, you already found words over here. You can find words over in your business,
It kind of helps you like look at situations that aren't real, that aren't really happening. You're not really fighting dragons.
Yes.
It's not really what the themes
Well,
are, but you know what I mean? Like,
it's too bad.
You're not really fighting dragons or going on a quest or, whatever, but you are living your life as a human being.
Yes.
And they are responding to these situations the way a human being would respond.
Yes.
And you're able to kind of look at that and be like, they have trauma. And then kind of reflect back to yourself, right? Like, there's that trauma word again. I wonder if that's why I'm going through this. And it's just...
Well, it was the same thing. So like last year with The Last of Us, it was so interesting how many guests who were on the podcast who would text me while they were trying to watch the show. And they were just like, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I can get through it. And I'm like, can you get through hard things in your business? And then it was like, oh, I see the pattern. And like, I see it happen in fiction too, where people will get really annoyed at certain characters and tropes. And it's like, that's a very strong response.
Mm-hmm.
What is that about?
I wonder why.
Yeah. Or people,
how does that pop up?
Right? Or they like covet things and they're like, oh, I just love shadow daddies in this way, And it's like, I mean, I love me a shadow daddy too, but like, it does not consume my thoughts.
Right.
So I'm like, well, that's a very interesting thought.
Mm-hmm.
Like, do you think maybe something's missing?
Yeah.
Like, and so like, I have like my reflection questions, which we have all failed at actually answering in our book club, but they're up on my YouTube channel. And every time we read something that really grips us as a group, like these reflection questions keep coming up. And so I've just been parking them in videos and, and I think it's valuable to take something fun and use it as a resource to figure out how do I get unstuck in my business.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes the unstuck thing is like, I am burnt out. I literally need to take a break. I don't know how to take a break because I feel the pressure, like I got to make more money or I got to do the things. And it's like, well, go do this activity and maybe it will, in the time that you let your neurons in your brain relax, it's amazing how many times solutions start coming through because you're not just so hyper fixated on, I've got to solve my lead generation problem. And then you find that you're actually a lot closer to it than you thought. Mm-hmm. That's what I find has been happening, at least for me.
Yeah.
I find that I'm more focused when I'm working too, because I'm taking better breaks that I had really gotten poor at doing because I overworked during COVID. So for me, it was a lot of like coming back from burnout. But yeah, it's been fun to go back into fiction. And it's also been fun to like not be a closet romance reader anymore.
Yeah. I know. It's like acceptable now.
Yeah. And it's sort of like the whole like be weird, find your weird people thing in business. And it's like, well, yeah, if I can be very like publicly, I'm a smut reader, then like what else can I talk about more boldly in my business that attracts the right people and repels the wrong ones?
Yeah,
exactly. I love that. I love that so much. Our little group has helped me in my business. It's helped me in my personal life.
Yeah.
Instead of like just doom scrolling every night before bed, I read again. And I love to read. I used to love to read and I stopped for so long.
Same.
And I think it's because
it recharged all of us.
All of us
because
recharged.
You let me borrow the Agatar series, which my mother-in-law
it all starts with Akatar.
Oh, it does. It does. My mother-in-law was like, how the heck did you go through all 5 of those books like
you
so
can't
fast?
explain it.
It's unexplainable.
Because there's drugs laced between the pages.
Maybe.
And they don't tell you that.
They don't tell you that.
I haven't read like that since I was a teenager.
Yeah,
like
same.
when I used to read Harry Potter and like all the big
used to
series
read with the flashlight. My mom would make us go to bed, and I would have like the flashlight to
as soon
read.
As I heard her
as
leave.
soon as I, and I'd just be reading under the covers.
That's
to finish
exactly.
something.
I feel like there's something. I mean, if you want to be woo for a minute here, like I think there's something collectively happening though, because these are new-ish works. I mean, Sarah J. Maas has been writing some of her stuff for a while, but like Rebecca Yarros only just pumped out Fourth Wing series. So like they're new, and Callie Hart only just pumped out Quicksilver. So these are, it was just so good. these are new, and we're all having this like collective experience and reaction to them after having been away, having adulting super hard and being told you have to do this and that. Books, and I think that there is like a magic that is happening collectively, and I'm like I know it'll evolve and change over time, but I think it's an evolution we've been waiting for. We've known that women's perspectives in economics and in business have, needed more equality and dollar for dollar wise. I mean, if you want to talk about brass tacks in revenue terms, like the way that this book publishing industry has been reignited is huge. I mean, the publishing industry has been tanking for years. And not that Romantasy is going to save all the problems of decades and decades of slide. Right. But there are things happening in publishing that have not happened in a very long time. And it's because of female readers and consumers. And not only that, but now the men are hopping on board too. And then you've got your like all-inclusive like LGBT too. And like it's amazing. Like it's so much more inclusive. And I was really struck reading these how much like consent is modeled and how much certain things where it was like, oh, we don't talk about those things. And then it was just like, no, we're all going to talk about it, and that people face trauma and they deal with it. And they just think it's so reflective of what we have gone through. And it's
society, collective trauma.
Totally. Right. Yeah. And it's like, and so then you've got your potential customers in front of you and your business, whatever it is you do. And it's like, so maybe you're not talking about Fourth Wing with them, but you can't tell me that the awareness you have and the language you have now isn't positively impacting the way that you are renegotiating boundaries or figuring out how to say yes to the right people or wrong to, no to the wrong ones. And or being able to identify toxic traits a little bit faster and leave the community that's not serving you, not handing over your money and paying for the wrong coach, oh my gosh, like all the things, because you watch these characters go through it. And so it's like the opposite of frivolous. It's gotten to the point, I mean, you guys know about this, so I might as well say it on a recorded microphone. So, because my business has been going through pivots and changes, and I'm like, I just want joy back in everything. And being a librarian and now also on the board of trustees for the Fort Vancouver Regional Library District, I was like, how do I bring like this about reading back into our business community? And so one of my goals for 2025 is to at least pilot one retreat in Vancouver, so that it's just for business owners. And I think we'll just hit low hanging fruit and go for romance fantasy as sort of the binding genre, and have just like a weekend retreat where it's a dear retreat. So drop everything and read is a common thing in schools and libraries, but for adults. Nice. And basically you're signing up for a retreat to do that. But I have some other tricks up my sleeve for how to get people to connect. And instead of telling people who you serve and what you offer, you have to pitch your most unhinged book recommendation, because that's what you remember about somebody.
Of course.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I always fail at it every year, but Book Riot always has like a hard to read book challenge. Oh yeah. Like you know about this, right? They have like 25 different find a title that is written by somebody LGBTQ, find a title about this, to read, and then everybody puts, usually it's on what is that? Goodreads.com. Yeah. I follow people's like, what are you reading that goes to this number?
That is super cool.
We should maybe we should do that for 2025 for
a scavenger hunt.
Just like a little scavenger hunt, or come up with
so much fun.
24 books, 2 books a month. I think that's reasonable. 2 books a month.
Yeah.
24 books.
Yeah. And it's so interesting because it's so low stakes, right?
Mhm.
And I was saying this all last year when we were doing The Last of Us for the School of Moxie podcast.
Oh,
It's so low stakes to watch a TV show. You can turn off. It's too much in the moment. Turn it off.
Yep.
You can go back to it later. Same thing with a book. Whoa, that is a lot in there. Or wow, it turns out I do not like those themes. I don't like those tropes. It's like you could DNF it. You could do not finish that
it.
book.
Yep.
Like you can.
I do
and
lots of DNFs.
I do a lot of DNFing
too. There's not enough time in the life for that.
But like, how do you know what you like doing in business when it comes to, say, your marketing activities? If you don't ever explore them, you don't know. And you're not going to find it so much in a nonfiction book anymore. I'm just finding that the thought leaders, big quotes, I think their age has come and gone, honestly. It's not that I don't appreciate people like Simon Sinek, love him, but it's like I kind of heard everything out of you. And I've noticed that even in his recent interviews, because I do keep up with all the business people stuff, and in his recent interviews, he's not talking so much about business. He's talking about the loss of friendship and loneliness and things that are more
Social
human,
isolation.
social things. And I'm like, that's not a coincidence.
No, because at the end of the day, we are all human, and we collectively just went through some huge trauma with COVID. And all of us are still trying to adjust to the new business life, the new working life after that. And also, we're trying to just survive. And some of us are parents. Some of us are caregivers in other ways. Some of us don't have any caregiving, but we have 1,000 other things going on in our lives. And at the end of the day, we are all human. And I think that's what COVID did to us, is we as a group came from this working space where it was like hustle, 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 hustle. Oh shit, this huge thing is happening. And now we are, quarantined with our families. We're quarantined alone. And we are now available 24/7 to our employers or our clients or whoever. And we got to prove that we're working really, really hard. And just a lot of shit happened. A lot of shit. And at the end of the day, we're all gonna die. And I don't mean
I was not expecting you to say. Not right now,
I'm
not tomorrow,
oh,
but
man,
eventually.
Can I
we're all gonna die.
share it everywhere? I want to share it everywhere.
We're all gonna die.
That's gonna be a meme, by the way, of this episode.
I want to be like, what are you reading right now? Because I'm reading Lights Out, and I'm like, well, that fit.
I just started a book, and I'm blanking on the name, but it's a dark.
It's dark.
It's a darker romance. It's about death.
Oh, that's why.
Oh my god! No, but I love what you said about COVID though, because like I'm reading a series right now. I mean, I've got like 3 books going right now because I check out my books from the library, and they all came at the same time. And there is a series by an author named April Asher, and she normally writes these sort of like thriller romance, like spy thriller type things. Oh
I'm sorry,
the
there's
dog
this
is
cute little
so
dog.
cute. Oh my. We are being visited by a dog. And
that was adorable.
Anybody listening to this, you'd be like, what is happening
this is
over there?
This is a fever dream.
I know.
There's death. There's a dog.
Oh my god. So she wrote this series of books. There's 3 of them. It's a supernatural series about these 3 witchy triplet sisters, and they are so full of joy. And I picked up the first one when my cat was dying. And it got me through this, because it brought me joy. I was like, oh, I can still laugh. I'm like, I'm okay. Like, I'm enjoying this. And it gave me like a little escape-ism.
Rest in peace, Mr. Giles.
Rest in peace, Mr. Giles. Oh my God. And
sweet boy.
He was so sweet. And in her, like the first couple pages in the book, like in her dedication, or maybe it was in the acknowledgments, whatever, she talks about how COVID was really hard. And she needed to write something that would lift her spirits. So she wrote these books.
Well, I'm going to take that title down. So that
I will make sure you have them. But she wrote these books, and it's, and people's expressions are so different, right? So then you swing over to Callie Hart, who has a fascinating business story because she had a bidding war from publishers on her self-published book.
Wow.
Quicksilver.
Oh, Quicksilver.
Which you really need to read.
I started it at the gym, and I have not been back to the gym.
Oh, so good. It's so good. You will get to it.
Yeah.
Once you like really get into it, you can't put it down. And
it's hard to.
So she wrote that as a response. She doesn't say it in the materials I have found, but I feel like, and I'm totally putting words in her mouth, but I feel like the cumulative effects of like working and working and working and getting through COVID, I don't know anybody who hasn't been at least mildly burned out in some way, shape, or form. And she wrote this romance fantasy, which is not her usual genre. Normally she writes dark romance. And she wrote this book that's
fantastic.
Just took off. And it's like, that is an expression that has come out of a COVID period. And people trying new things. And I would say that like we are just now, when we're recording this podcast into 2024, I would say like we are just now starting to actually come out of post-COVID. And I think 2025 is going to be a very different-ish year by this time next year.
I think so.
Because I think 2023 was really slumping, and then 2024 has been difficult. I don't know anybody who at least is being honest, who hasn't said that it's been flat, it's been difficult. They've been going through a lot of change. It's been slow, sluggish. Those are other words I've heard. And these are businesses that are both small, early stage, as well as large, like large revenue. And so I have seen that across the board. So I'm always like a little bit, my alarm bells go off when I hear someone saying like, oh, everything's so great. And they're doing like the influencer thing. Cause I'm like, really? Is it? I don't know.
And even if it is great, like to just keep it very surface level is just not a thing I feel like we're really doing anymore.
No. And it's, I think it's easier now to see when something is surface level. It would be the equivalent of like, did you enjoy the book? Oh yeah, it was great.
Without any
and what else did you think about it? And then, words will start tumbling out and like, well, I actually don't remember very much of it. And it's like, oh, okay. So you haven't been plugged in. Okay. So tell me more words. What else has been going on?
Give me some words.
And I think that things like reading fiction or watching TV shows is giving us a chance to suss that out and figure out, oh, no, these are my better collaborative partners. They are more on the same journey path. I can talk about hard things with them.
Is that why I'm finding more drama in my client life? Because I've just been watching a lot of what I consider major trash TV, like reality TV.
Maybe.
And that's what's coming out, like Love is Blind and The Real Housewives, and like all these things. Oh, and we got into Survivor. I love it. So yeah, I've been just doing like a lot of reality TV, and like I will just be honest, judging peopling and interpersonal things and how people choose to interact with other people, and being like, well, why did you not expect that to happen at all?
Well, it's because you're like noticing those patterns. Maybe you're like noticing those patterns
in my,
because the thing is, at the end of the day, we are all human beings. And true. I think where I was going with that very blunt, we're all gonna die. Situation was like, at the end of the day, nothing really fucking matters. Like nothing matters.
It's not that deep.
It's really not that deep. And so when you can find that within another person, where you can be honest about that, like, oh yeah, this really doesn't matter that much. Like that's where the magic happens, when you're like, you have that empathy for other people and you're able to look at these things and have real conversations instead of like, oh yeah, today I met so-and-so from wherever and I think we're gonna like connect on blah 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 and widgets and blah 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 blah. Yeah, it's like I don't care. I don't fucking care.
I want to hear you say that again.
No, widgets.
Yes. I think there's something, so like in our text thread, I think it was earlier today, somebody sent out a meme, like a reel from Instagram, and it was these llamas in a field and like the bushes were on fire behind them. And then the caption, it was like this funny music, and then the caption said something like, me and all my book talk girlies, like just going back to reading and ignoring like the fire. Like we're like, I can't today.
My kid's screaming in the background and I'm like
and you're just like, yes. And like you get that little thing you get the little penguin pebble from your friends, and you're just like, oh yeah, I'm not imagining it.
No.
This isn't just me. And like, and also it's gonna be okay.
Yeah. Because at the end of the day, it's not that deep.
Yep.
And we're all gonna die.
And we're all gonna die, but we're laughing about it.
And we're laughing about it. I was going to say also for context for folks who are listening to this, we were recording this prior to the presidential election of 2024.
Oh, yeah.
So
So we
we're about 10 days out.
Yeah.
And it's, oh my God, the amount of emotional coaching I have done this week.
Gosh.
And I've had so many, it's been an increasing amount of private conversations, some of them in coaching spaces, a lot of them I would say actually not, just like DMs and direct messages, and people have been confessing to me. I'm like, am I wearing a priest collar this week? I don't know. And they're like, I'm having all this anxiety. And I'm like, I totally understand.
Yes.
And I think like by tapping into a zeitgeisty thing like romance fantasy, you now are like that little switch is activated. And so then when you see this election stuff happening around you, you kind of go, okay, I am tapping into the collective. Like, it's not just me, it's everybody in big quotes. And like, also we're going to get through it. Like, it's
going to be
okay.
fine. Actually, one of my clients was just like, I think we should plan an email, for a day or two after the election of just being like, yes, we get it. Yes, something happened. You're still going to have to do the things in your business. All of this is still going to exist no matter who the heck ends up in
That is
the
what
White
I
House.
have been preaching. and instead of getting preachy on my YouTube, I've just been like, you know what, I'm gonna let chips fall where they may, and afterwards see like, how do people come out of it. I personally have a feeling no matter what the outcome is, it's just like coming out of COVID. People are going to be burned out from this election cycle, and they're going to be seeking joy again. And I don't think that the old coaching program methodology is helping at the same efficacy level that it was before.
No.
And it's why we're seeing the industry tank right now.
Well, that and people are just really distracted. I feel like there's also just a lot of distraction. Like, I've been saying that to a lot of people of like, why are you worrying about that right now? Either one, it's something that is not at all within your control. So like, take it off the brain plate, because that's, not going to help you at all to just keep spinning out about this. Or two, if it is important, do the thing about it and get it the hell off, and just power it through. Because it's just not, I don't know. I'm very much in the zone of like, worry about things that are in your control. Like, you can freak out about them for a little while. I told you both about how I can't move until certain things happen. And I freaked out about that for a little while. But you know what? I became solution oriented. I was like, cool, need to get to that thing in Vegas. Gonna buy flights. Gonna get a hotel. Gotta make it happen anyway.
It's upsetting.
Don't let it it's upsetting, but don't let it keep spinning you out. Like, just all consuming you. Because I was like, I could have just shut down and be like, I can't do anything. But
I have a question for you.
Yes.
Do you feel, because you have jumped onto the romance fantasy bandwagon with us, do you feel like, because now you have read some of those things, do you feel like maybe some of it has seeped into your very being, like the way you think to solve problems? Because you've just read about these characters where like they have an emotionally upsetting situation, and then it's like you watch them struggle, and then they figure out and like things move on, and eventually you have to like do something. Do you think that has helped you?
I think so. Yeah. And I think that's why like I really do like watching what I call trash TV, but it like it shows you the way to resolve problems with people of like, oh, she said this shitty thing to that person and it's going to keep being a problem. Or you can do, the other way that's going to work through it. Like, I really love the Real Housewives of Potomac, but they're like so evil to each other sometimes. But there's people who consistently do the same things that I'm like, that's just how she is. She ain't ever gonna change. And you just gotta deal with it.
It's
like
such a good point.
It's such a Well, and I think like for our reader or listeners, you don't have to read. Like, it doesn't have, sidebar, I do think if you don't like to read, that maybe it's just because you haven't found the right thing to read.
Yes.
But that's another totally different topic. But like, if it's trash TV, or if it's the stupid Hallmark movies for Christmas.
But why do we say that they're trash or silly Hallmark?
Because they're
it's female-oriented audiences. I know. This will just make you so mad.
I know. But that's very true.
It is very true. It's not trash TV. It's just people interacting. People being people.
The reason I call it trash TV is it's like, I could be doing so well. Actually, maybe this is a different way to look at it. I could be doing something more productive, but I am sitting here watching this. But it's just like it's like brain candy, you know.
How often do we
Dopamine.
pop the proverbial popcorn and pull up a chair and watch the drama go down in the business world in the same way? Because I'm telling you, I do it all the time.
Oh, of course.
I
I'll be
have
like,
registered for
"Let's
webinars
look
just to
at
watch
that."
it.
Yeah. And like even just in anything, like if you see like police officers out in the street and you see something going down, you're not gonna just sit and be like, oh, it's not my business. Like I don't
be
do
like,
that.
where are my binoculars?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm like,
Can I
I'm
look
just
over
gonna
here?
go get my coffee and take a walk
right.
right now.
And
Yes, I'm walking my dog for a very specific reason.
I can only go down this one path.
I love those videos online where it's like there's like police and then somebody like
Oh,
pretend like they're like
vacuuming the
vacuuming the grass or whatever. I'm like, yep, I'd be doing that too. It's human nature.
Yes.
And also like there's drama everywhere. You put two people in a room, you got politics. Like there's drama everywhere. And it's whether it's the Real Housewives in Potomac
who have very different problems than other people.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or, you know, our online business, you know, celebrity entrepreneurs who've like monopolized the market for a very long time and are honestly fucking up really hard lately. And I'm like, I'll watch any of it.
Yeah.
Like, I want to see what you do with that. And there's always somebody who comes out as the villain. There's always somebody who comes out as the hero. There's always somebody who it's the way we frame things as humans. And when you can figure that out, you realize that like you will always go through an evolution. You're going to be a villain in someone's story somewhere. You're going to be the hero in someone else's story somewhere. Like you play all the roles, and then you can start to figure out like, okay, who do I enjoy the most? Who actually sees me as a hero? Like, can I recognize it? And if like I'm constantly feeling like I'm being villainized, something's wrong. Either it's probably a combination. Either like I need to do a little therapy in there, and or that is like not the right people.
That's not the right people or the right room. I think we've talked about this before. Like getting out of rooms that don't serve you.
Yeah.
And it can be
fast.
hard. It can be hard.
Yeah.
Doing it faster is my goal of mine too.
Yeah.
And also applying that to like literally everything in business.
Yes.
Getting out or stop working with clients
Yes.
that aren't for you. Stop doing services that aren't working for you.
When it starts
Like,
feeling icky, like
just get away.
yeah, make the boundary.
But like, you know, you watch your in quotes trash TV and you've got like the villainous characters always stirring up the muck. And it's like there's a pattern to that. And it's like, okay, the pattern's not going to be apples to apples in whatever you're going through in life. But let's say you've got that client who keeps stirring up trouble. And it's like, oh, wait, I know how to recognize the pattern. Wait, something's off. Like I literally feel the emotional trigger of like, I know this. It's like, how do I know it from watching my TV show.
Yes,
and then you're like, oh, something's really wrong, you know? And I think in the romance fantasy side of things, I think a lot of us who read it, we're seeking our ideal people. And it's like romance is predicated on a happy ending for everyone. And so, you know, when the right people end up together, like the more you understand, like the right people end up together and you're like, oh, I have the feeling, you know? And so we all get nervous when we're like, I really love them. What if they're not endgame? That's totally a fourth wing thing. I won't. I'm like, Zayden has to live.
He will.
I'm like, Dane cannot be endgame.
No, it's not. I actually saw an interview where Rebecca Yarros was like, sorry to our listeners. This is side note. Hopefully you like Fourth Wing. She was in an interview and she was like, you guys, is there something wrong with you? Dana's not like Dana's.
Oh,
like
I think I did see that. You did send that to me.
Dana's like the boy that you thought you wanted to end up with, and then realized that you didn't.
Yeah.
Like when you got older, he was like the teenage version of what you wanted. Yeah. So yeah, I don't think that's.
I think he does have a redemption arc headed for him.
I do think so,
but yeah,
which like I don't think really like people hate Tamlin, and so
I think Tamlin actually has a redemption arc.
I think she already tried to give it to him, and then like I think she kept the story going, and it kind of got worse. But like I think Dane's gonna have like a true redemption.
It was set up very strongly in Iron Flame.
Yeah.
I'll get there eventually. I'm not going to remember these small details by the time I get there.
But the feeling, right? It's about a feeling. And so, when people come to me and they're like, I want to do more woo-woo, intuitive, metaphysical things, I'm like, well, how much are you in tune with your emotional body? Like, have you been brave enough to dive into that? Because intuition comes from feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And
my watch is totally wrong.
Go for it.
It's like really distracting me now that I looked at it.
Maybe it's notes. Like maybe there's like a time warp going on.
I know.
I've been reading so much fiction. Yeah, I feel like there's this reconnection to feelings that's happening in the reading process.
Oh, yeah.
And you don't get that connection to feeling in your nonfiction thought leadership books. No. And you get disconnected from feelings in like old school traditional sales models. And so like it doesn't surprise me that the traditional coaching sales model is failing right now, because it is meant to disconnect you from how you feel. Yeah. They want you to bypass how you feel and just impulsively buy it, especially high ticket things. And now, people are reconnecting with like, but how do I feel? And they're like, wait a minute, I need to slow it down. And I don't want that thing. Yeah. And I don't like what you're saying.
That's the thing is, I think a lot of people need to like slow down and process instead of trying to rush and hurry and be patient. Stuff happens with time.
Yeah.
And especially now, like, again, navigating an election year, people are like, people are not doing what they usually do. And I'm like, duh, because they're completely distracted. You're competing.
Yeah.
I read something, maybe it was on Ad Age, something like about how much political money is just going on. Like, if you are marketing, if you're doing anything related to your business, if you relied on TV campaigns or anything like that, the inventory just isn't there for you at all. And it's true across the board. Even, if you are doing email marketing for your stuff, social media for your stuff, we all share the same space.
All the platforms.
All the platforms.
And if you were like me and you bought a t-shirt during the Democratic National Convention, you end up on an email list, a bunch of email lists actually. And anytime people are like, I'm so afraid of mailing to them. I'm like, no, you could never email too much. No. Let me tell you who emails too much. And even then I'm like, I kind of have patience for it, because I'm like, you have a very specific time window in which you can accomplish this goal. But they send emails like on the quarter hour, every hour.
Oh yeah. I've been asked to donate money by every representative, a Democratic representative, Kamala Harris, Kamala Harris Walls emails me every day.
Yeah. And as a systems, as a longtime systems coach, I know that most people function in very disorganized ways, and they do not set up their email inboxes for success.
No.
So if you, let's say, bought a t-shirt and made a donation effectively, and then you get on these email lists and your inbox is suddenly like flooded with emails, you're going to be distracted. No, you're not going to see my little email every week. Maybe you do, but now you're so dysregulated by scrolling through your inbox. And then you're like, oh my gosh. So like the dysregulation in everyone is so great that it's going to take a while. And I don't think it's going to get better until quite a while after Inauguration Day,
in January or February.
Yeah.
It's going to be a while. Yeah.
And there's going to be sort of that hangover too. And so we need patience for our audience. We need patience for ourselves, and we need patience for our people. And in the meantime, it's like, why not do something that brings you joy?
Right. But it might just spark an idea. If you're in a better place, if you're happier, if you're actually taking care of your needs, it might just lead you down the path you're supposed to go.
But also, you're building relationships. Business is people.
Yes.
So during the time when you're like, oh no, I'm not making sales, and you're like, but I'm reading books and I'm connecting with people, and it's like in a few months, suddenly that blossoms into like long-term client relationship or amazing collaboration, and I think people forget that because they're still stuck in this transactional place where it's like, I've got to find a lead and make a sale. I've got to convert them into a sale. And I'm like, that's actually not it.
No. And your time from lead to close can be very long depending on what
Yeah.
you sell and what you do.
I would argue
You
for
know.
everybody, it's been getting longer and longer and
Yep.
longer,
Mhm.
which is frankly a more human reaction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People
Well,
aren't just gonna
Yep.
buy this,
Well,
buy that, you know.
I will also
Mm-mm.
say that impulse buyers become the most problematic
Yes.
children.
Yes.
They always become the most problematic children. You have to defend that what you're doing is, truly that.
Yeah.
And then if you have sold your offer on certain results, and the results, which they always do, require that human that you sold it to do something, but then they want to push all of that on you, you're like, yo, still your business I'm helping with. Like, I'm helping you, but you are still your number one system.
Yes,
Like, as
yes.
you say,
you are. And
you know.
and also like the impulse buyers, because like I have now I would say I have pretty much shifted my business back to building large list, low price product.
Mhm.
It's my happy place.
Mhm.
I love it. And when you have that low price, if it's like, an impulse buy for the $19 a month subscription, the churn rate is higher.
Mhm.
You do
Yeah.
deal with churn, and like that's okay. But if you have something that is a higher priced item and you have constant churn rate, that is exhausting
It
and
is.
also very costly as a business, because now like the fulfillment on having to satisfy
Do
that
that
resolution
whole
is
thing,
high,
Yeah.
and I don't think that there's anything wrong with letting people take their time, but I have noticed by providing structure and space for people to do that, related to like what we started talking with at the beginning, like people are still very trained to like kind of make quick decisions, and so they kind of were thrown off. I've had people and they're like, well, you mean I can come back later? And I'm like, yeah, you can come back later, like
Mhm.
it's okay.
You should actually think about it.
I
Like,
want you, if you came into the conversation like, I don't know, I want you to go away and think about
Yep.
it.
Yep.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I need you to decide, am I ready to commit right now? Because I don't want to onboard you into my Voxer space and then now you're just gonna like verbal vomit dump. I don't know what I'm doing in here.
Mhm.
Like I need
Yeah.
you to think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know that is something to say too about having a little bit more like thinking through before you do something, or having a vision or a direction too.
Yes.
Because
So
a lot
many
of times
people don't have
people
that
are like,
anymore.
I just know
No.
I just know I'm not doing well, and I'm like, well, what are your metrics of success? Are they realistic? What level? I think you and I have talked about this before.
Mhm.
Like, how did you decide that you can go from making $10,000 months to making $100,000 months?
Yeah,
like,
where did
that's
that come
just
from?
like what? Like, where's the proof of that? Wouldn't it just be easier to try to get to like 11,000 and then maybe 15, and then maybe more? Like,
I've had that in my metaphysical side of my business, where when I had my coven still, we would do every fire season, we would do the spell from Tess Whitehurst. She's this witch who I have had a long time relationship with through my blog way back in the day. And it's a spell to manifest a very specific amount of money. And it's a very easy spell. And it asks you to declare an amount. And I would use it on purpose with my business owners because it forces you to think, why am I trying to manifest that amount of money? Like, where does that come from?
Right.
Mhm.
Like, what is the purpose of this? Because money needs a job to do. The energy needs a job to do. So if I'm going to call it in, I sure as hell had better be ready for it. And
Mhm.
also, if I'm going to call it in, I sure as hell better have a cleared pathway for it to come to me. Otherwise, it can't come to me, and it would not be unusual, especially on people's first and second rounds of this. And mind you, it's every fire season. So this isn't happening every week.
Mhm.
You do it 3 times a year.
Mhm.
So you need time to figure out, what am I doing? Why do I keep doing that? And I more than once I had something, they're like $1 million, and I'm like, I love the gusto, but where's $1 million coming from? I'm like, because you're still struggling to get 5K consistently every month and pay your bills.
Mhm.
So where is that coming from? And there's business structure. Where are the leads? Where's the compelling offer? Have you tested it? And so I always loved, coaching them into a space of like, you can totally do whatever you want. You do you, boo. But at the end of the day, if you want to really like amp up your manifestation abilities, you need to think about like, what is the purpose of this? And one of the easiest ways is like, you know what? I want to pay off that credit card. That credit card is X number of dollars. And it's like, okay, now that I have a very clear visualization, I can see the bill in front of me. I understand what happened in that picture. I have a clear purpose for it. And it's like, okay, now I can take some action and I can see what happens. And the spell is really wild because the money always comes in like really interesting ways. So sometimes it comes in the equivalent of like like a material property, or sometimes it comes through in like, instead of like,
is that the one you sent me?
I think so.
Yeah, it did.
Instead of like
worked.
a payout, it works,
it
right?
It did work.
Instead of like a payout, it's like I've seen this before where somebody has a salary and it's like, you know, you find out you get a raise for that amount, you know? And sometimes it is like, I made X dollars in sales, you know, but it's a piece of feedback for yourself that I think is really valuable. And I feel like people now are seeking that clarity, and it's like, well, it's in you, but you can't do it by just copying because you see, oh, that person shows up on Instagram this many times a week, and then they do the format like this, and this, and I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to use the hashtags, and I'm going to da-da-da-da, and it's like, that's not the solution.
That is my least favorite thing to hear from people, which is like, you know, if I pay you, how many of this am I getting and how many of that am I getting? And I'm like, well, no, let's ratchet back. What the hell do you have for me to promote on your social media? What are you doing? If you were doing nothing, then I can't market nothing. Like we need to have something in the container to do. Yeah. And so I feel like almost all the time I'm starting from like the very beginning about like, it comes down to the basics. Who are you talking to? Who's that audience? What do you have to offer to them? Yeah. And why do they buy it? Yeah. If you don't have buyers, why do they care? Yeah. Why do they care?
Exactly. And to bring a full circle, it all comes back. The fastest path to cash is always conversation. Can you have a conversation with somebody about anything, especially not what you're selling? Right. Because if you can't do that, they're not buying from you.
Yeah. Because again, we are all human beings, and we don't really care about.
Well, I say that it will give you so much more client longevity if you have a thing to relate with them on that has nothing to do even with your work with them.
Yeah. I think people forget too, like we make decisions not off of the value proposition and the whatever
logic.
We do it off of like, do I like this person? And the same thing happens in corporate space where you hire, because I was a hiring manager back in the day. And it's like, okay, yes, the person needs to have a certain amount of skills for certain things. Yes. But at the end of the day, you hire the person who you feel like you can be around for 8 hours.
Oh, yes. So true.
Because
very personality based.
Very personality based in the end. Because like I remember having people come in and it's like, man, like on paper they look so good. And like, yeah, they can do all the skills. But they came in and they were a total doucheweed. And it's like, I don't want to be around this person, you know? Yeah. And so like you have to remember that your clients, it's like they are the hiring manager and you have applied for a job in the company. And they are going to hire at the end of the day based on, do we get along?
Yeah.
You know, and it doesn't matter if you're a service provider or a coach, or even if you sell a product, like there are so many people selling the exact same product out there. Why do you buy the one? Because you believe in their mission, or you like the person,
or like the person. Oh my God. There's so many people who want to just hide behind it too. And I'm like, if you do not believe in your product, and if you don't want to put out why I should buy your widget as opposed to Tory's widget, like battle, you know, like, battle. Why should I go over here than over there? Like there has to be
a dystopian fantasy novel where the business people have to battle in the ring for their.
Yes,
it'd be so great.
I keep referencing people back to like Shark Tank again, like you know, just like I was like, it's a really good one to look at value prop, like how they actually sell stuff. I have a client that I was like, specific one good name for your product, specific website that's all about your product. It can't be hidden randomly on your website because it has nothing. It does, but doesn't have anything to do with what they do. And I'm like, it has to have legs on its own.
Also, if you watch Shark Tank episodes enough, how many times do the sharks invest in people because they're like, I just
like them.
really
Just
like you.
Yeah.
I like
Well, it's an energy thing
Yes.
too.
And they know, like I've heard it multiple times from like Mark Cuban or whatever, and he'll be like, yeah, this whole thing needs to be reworked. Like the packaging needs to be redone. Your pitch needs to be redone. But like, man, I really love your drive. And they say things like that. And it's like, yeah, and then they make an investment.
And at the end of the day, the logistics of a business plan and marketing is not that difficult when you know what it is that you want and what it is that you're going to sell.
Yes.
And you can just hire somebody to help you with that if you don't like that piece. But if you don't know what you're about, if you can't sell it to someone, if you can't talk to someone, if you can't relate to someone, you're probably like, it's not about being extroverted or introverted. It's about being able to connect with people. And if you can't connect with people, you're probably not going to be a good entrepreneur.
Yes. And you yes. But like you have to literally be it. Like you can't pretend. And I think that's something I see in people where, you know,
there's a lot of pretending to be somebody else. Like
they're like mimicking, and it's like, no, but who are you? I want to know, who are you? Can you be you? Because one of the top things that I get in my world, and people are like, how'd you mesh like technology and metaphysics don't go together? I'm like, well, actually they do, because it's in me.
Yes.
And I'm like, is it in you? And I've had people where they're like, let me try to be all the things. And it's like, you can be all the things if it is you.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you enjoy it. Like, this is a brings joy thing for me. Like the podcast, you know, some people are like, oh, I don't even think I could do that. I was like, then don't do it. Find the other thing. Find the thing.
You don't
Find the
have
thing
to
that
do a
lights
podcast.
you.
Yeah.
I think if you look at someone and you're like, oh, I should podcast. And they're like, oh, but it's so much work. If those are the words that come out of your mouth, stop, drop, and roll. Like, just stop.
It's not for you.
Don't do it.
That's not for you.
Or hire people to manage it. Like that's the other thing too, is like if your zone of genius is in one specific thing and then you just can't do all the rest, like hire people who can do it.
Yeah, that gets into a whole other line of
whole other topic of conversation.
Being willing to invest.
Yes. Oh, and being willing to invest in your business. Yes. Because at some point you need that. You are going to need, again, we're talking about people and peopling. You will need other people in your business. Unless you're just super happy with whatever little grind it is that you have. But, all those people who fake it and are like, oh, it's just me. And I'm like, no, girl, that's not just you.
But, I think along the lines of investment, you can always look at things going on in your life or someone else's life. So let's do book talk as an example. You see these people buy entire libraries of books. Like you could get a library card and check the books out for free. In quotes free. It's not really free, tax dollars, but whatever. But you could.
You could use your societal benefit.
You could use your societal benefit, and you could do it budget method and not buy all the books and not have your husband surprise you with like a room redo and all the shelves and everything organized so you can stand in front of your camera with the lights on and have all your books behind you. You could, but it's like if you're doing all of that, but then you're like, I don't want to pay for the marketing help that I need. Like, boo, we got problems. And like you are not afraid of making investments. I've seen this year so many people say like, oh, I don't know, I can't do that. And then they're like, oh, we're going on a cruise. I'm like, well, cruise is very expensive. So
you made the investment in that
somewhere else.
So yeah.
I'm like, so where is the desire to reach your professional goal? And if you honestly, truly do not have the desire for the professional goal because you don't want to invest in it, I got news for you. I don't know that business is your jam. Yep. And I'm seeing a lot of people go back to JLB jobs. I have coached a number of people this year how to put down the business and like provide for themselves while they're job hunting. And it's been a very private space where there have been tears and there have been a lot of conversations about like, oh crap, this is not for me. And it's like, there is nothing wrong with it not being for you. No. And a lot of employers are really happy to get someone who has entrepreneurial experience at this point because they need somebody who can connect with that and think that way. And but you will be happier collecting a regularly delivered salary every 2 weeks with all of your payroll automatically deducted and your forms at the end of the year, and like there's nothing wrong with that. And I think this like mimicking idealization of like this image that people see is dying a death right now. That yes, at the end of the day, everybody will be dead.
Oh, that's my favorite thing I've ever said.
But I'm also reading a dark romance right now, and I'm like, yeah, no, that's true.
We all die. So there you go.
Why are my episodes always so fucking long?
Because we love you.
Because we love you. Yeah, exactly.
We're leaving that in, by the way. We're doing that like as like a blooper.
So I think what we could do is we could wrap up with the section on shifting gears and shifting gears on channeling themes for 2024 and 2025.
Oh yeah.
And basically, let's focus on kind of some of the things that you've been channeling for your entrepreneurs lately, and see where you want to go with that, and then we'll end with a fun question.
Okay. Well, I have not channeled my 2025 quarter by quarter forecast yet. That is coming, but I've started to get some things coming in.
I really liked that you took that note last year. And
thank you.
You did it.
I did.
You have to like replay whether or not all those things came true, or in what ways they didn't.
I do feel like, I'll just tell you, I do feel like from like a high perspective, without getting into the details, I do feel like quarter by quarter, it played out pretty accurately.
I think it actually did.
Too.
And I think the thing that surprised me the most so far is I had originally, and this was a year ago, forecasted that now quarter 4 would be better with sales towards the holidays, especially. But the thing that caught me off guard was how quickly like revenue generating activity started from like October 1st, like literally on the calendar. Yeah. And I was like, what? Whoa. I had in my like self side computed the channel messages like it was slow through Q2, Q3, a lot of internal work in Q2, a lot of real world like hard conversations, tough decision making in Q3, especially related to people. And then I thought like, oh, it'll be kind of slow, especially because like I was being logical about it. Like there's elections on November 5th. It doesn't take tarot cards or a genius to see
that is disruptive.
It's disruptive, right? Yeah. So I was like, well, that means that like Black Friday through Christmas, through Hanukkah, through New Year's, will be like a decent sales season because an outcome will happen no matter what.
Also, Black Friday is so much later this year because of where Thanksgiving lands in like truly the last week of
it's
November.
The way it falls. So like there's this extra week on the calendar and and so I think the thing that caught me off guard was how quick the energy started from the top of the fourth quarter. Because I have been rip-roaringly busy in October. Yeah. I felt like I was twiddling my thumbs a lot during the year, just sort of like trying to be patient, biding my time, doing good systems work, continuing pivoting, all the things. And then all of a sudden, like the leads were just like, bleh, like it was so many. And I saw you for dinner and you were like, because you did all the work leading up to it. So
you did. Yeah.
And so I think that has been the most surprising thing out of like the whole thing. Otherwise it was like pretty accurate. And I do feel like even though we'll feel revenue wise better in the second part of the fourth quarter, I don't feel like we're really going to come out of this like election hangover period until after we get through. I really feel like the Lunar New Year is it. So if we're talking really practical things, January 21st is inauguration date. Someone's getting inaugurated. And then on January 29th is that Lunar New Year.
Oh, so good. It's earlier this year. Mm-hmm. No February 10th.
Yeah. So I think like I think there'll be literally a kind of an emotional hangover. I actually think you're going to see that and feel it in a lot of people, not necessarily in a detrimental way, but I do feel like it's going to affect a lot of our activities still through most of 2025. I would argue like through summer ish. And I think like in summer, people will start to catch up on the rest and the relaxation and the somatic regulation and whatnot, and whatever events need to transpire are going to happen. So there's a lot of people who are waiting for something to happen to them. And it's like, well, things are going to start happening because economics are going to pick up.
Yeah.
And once that picks up, it's sort of like people who are doing the work and are feeling really good about it and finding joy and like you're going to make sales. It's inevitable. You're going to make sales. You're going to find new people, all the good things. And the people who are not in the place of joy, you're going to get to summertime and it's like, well, why do I feel like I have a rain cloud over my head and it's sunny outside, proverbially speaking here, but it's going to be some more come to Jesus moments. What am I doing? And then maybe also like literally like, shit, I haven't made any money. Everything's at zero. I have to by default fold.
Right.
I can't actually sustain anything and be forced to, make change. And you go through whatever path you're supposed to go through. But I do feel like by this time next year in the fourth quarter is when we see like a marked change. And 2026 is when the energy feels lighter. And that is like a little more of like a broad feeling, but there's like a really different feeling in 2026 energy.
My business will be 5 by then.
Oh,
that's my
fifth
5
birthday
year,
party.
5th birthday. So
yeah. So, and there's so many things that I think is really important to point out that like, there are so many things that are very personal to each of us. So, you can listen to astrology weather forecast, and you can listen to like my readings, which are designed to help you tap into the collective. So you're not me. Why is it me? And it's like, no, you're listening to a reading that everyone else is a part of. You want to know what's going on? Listen to the reading. And instead of being like, why am I having a problem? It's like, oh, everyone is
it's a
having
universe
this thing,
issue,
and I just really feel like there is, a lot of deep processing that's been going on, but it's really a system reboot. And like, I was in this week's readings. It might've been in this week's readings because I channel them on Tuesdays now.
Oh, you pushed them way earlier in the week
I
now.
know. It's my save my butt method because and I think it was in this week's reading. So you guys will see it this weekend. And I was saying like, we live in these natural seasons and we forget because technology moves so quickly that we're still creatures of nature.
Yep.
And when you look at the natural seasons, things do not happen fast and they do not happen immediately. Yes, you can have things that in hindsight appear to be in quotes fast, like hurricanes, like we were talking about. And so, this season, Hurricane Milton formed really fast in the Gulf. And there were a lot of meteorologists who were like, it's not going to be a thing. And like, it went from category 1 to 4 in like 24 hours or whatever. And it's like, yes, some things do happen fast, but it still took a number of days before it actually approached landfall. Mm-hmm. And I fell down the YouTube rabbit hole of watching meteorologists because I'm obsessed with weather news. And I fell down the rabbit hole of watching them. And they were streaming live with their storm crews on the ground, their storm chasers on the ground. And it's like as landfall was happening, it was over a series of hours. And so in hindsight, it seems like, oh, it happened. And it's like, yeah, but in real time, things feel slower and you've got to ride through it. And like, we forget that so much. And so I feel like the equivalent of what's been happening over the last 2 years, like I would argue since 2022 into now, like I would say into say, getting towards second quarter 2025, like that time period. So Q2 from 2022 to Q2 2025, that's period. In hindsight, we'll be like, oh, it happened. But while you're living it, you're like, man, this thing is dragging on.
Yep. Well, and it's like you plant seeds, right? Like I said, when we went to dinner, you were just like, oh my God, it's coming. It's like you were doing the seeds ahead of time. So things don't happen fast.
They don't happen
but they will
fast.
Eventually happen if you're planting the right things.
Yeah. And I think like the best thing anyone can do, and it's just very practical. So it's like, it doesn't require tarot cards. It's like, how do I feel? Because your chart is unique to you. So you can listen to the astro weather forecast. You can listen to a reading like mine. but figuring out that I am an individual and like things are going to impact me differently than the next person. So I cannot compare my situation apples to apples with, say, Tory's chart, because it's not going to work, you know? And sometimes they are drastically different. And to realize that, like, yes, you have like your sun sign, but to base everything off of your sun sign, it's like, no, if you really want to dig into it, like actually learn it, dig into it. And it's like, and if you don't want to, it's like, boo, do I have news for you? Like, I don't know.
Self-awareness is the strongest thing that you can do.
It's the best
thing that you can do.
It's like, if you don't want to learn it yourself, you need to pay somebody else to do the interpretation for you on your chart. And if you don't want to pay for that either, there's something deeper going on, and it's reflective probably of what's going on in your business.
Yeah. One theme that I've heard from you since I started like following you is like, you need to do the work. You need to look inside yourself. And I don't know if maybe that's just me picking that up because I need that. But I feel like since I started my business, that's been like the biggest thing of like, what do I want? Why is this not working for me? Oh, therapy. Oh, trauma. That's the thing I need to deal with before I deal with, okay, I get it now.
Yeah. And I think a lot of times those messages, I mean, so I channel Akashic Records. I'm like, everybody else is channeling their Akashic Records all the time. Those are your soul's records. And so when you have that little voice in your head and it's saying mundane things like, you know, we should really go wash those dishes. You know, what if we just clean out the closet, walk away from the computer right now? And you're like, I must muscle through, and I've got to send the emails, and I've got to do the thing. And then in that the little voice is just gently and lovingly coming up, and you're just like swatting it away like a fly. And it's like, that is the message.
I solve business problems sometimes by just doing my laundry. Well, you guys know my living situation now is I'm living in my in-laws' basement until we can move back to Vegas. And the laundry is like right there. And so I've actually done our laundry so many times. And my husband's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, can't deal with computer right now. Gonna go do that because that seems very and need a break. Or I'll like, you know, do jumping jacks or, you know, go up and down in there. And then I'll be like, okay, now I'm ready to not yell at this person on email because I just took a mental break.
Cleaning is remarkably effective from an energetic standpoint. I mean, it's a crazy great method. But I have this thing in the business world where I feel like because there's been this rhetoric over the last few years, which is like, you have dollar value on every single task in life, and you shouldn't do $10 tasks, and you're too good for administrative work and all this stuff. And they're like, farm it out. And I'm like, if you're so disconnected from your life that you don't even do your laundry anymore, that you can't do your dishes anymore, something is fundamentally wrong. This is why you are disconnected from your audience. And you're like, well, how come everything's falling apart? And it's like, gee, maybe it could
you're not relatable.
You're not in your life anymore, you know? And that's not to say that you can't hire your cleaning lady or you can't like send your clothes out to, you know, for washing or whatever. But like, but how much do you participate in your life? Like really participate, because like 75% or more of your life is actually a lot of really mundane things. And if you're just constantly trying to check out of that, it's like, so you're just trying to fill everything with dopamine. Like, are you trying to burn yourself out that badly? What is going on? And beauty happens in these small moments. So like, why would you want to do that? And I just feel like there's such an opportunity invitation right now to like reconnect with like, I am like fully present, which is honest to goddess, really hard to do. And to be like, I am feeling something right now. And it's like, what are you feeling? And it's like, I don't know the words for it. It's like, I got to find those words. And it's like, that is where your intuition comes from. It's where your best business decisions come from. It's where your connection to your audience comes from. All the things that you're seeking, like you can spend a lot of money and you can hire a lot of people. And at some point you probably will need to hire some of those people. But if you hire them to bypass that work that you need to do.
Yeah. I was going to say, if you hire people without a vision of where long-term this is going, you're just it's going to crumble.
Yeah. And I find like that's when I think that's why like I just had this conversation this week with Megan Dowd from our book club on YouTube, and we were talking about the ragepreneur community. And I think like this is where the ragepreneurs are coming from. They are feeling a genuine emotion that genuinely needs to be processed, but they're just bypassing it into this business space. And it's like, actually the thing that needs solving is not going to happen in the Zoom room or in that community Slack group or whatever. Like, you need to go deal with you. And you know, when you do, like, I'm a betting woman on this. I would put money down on a Vegas table and I would be like, I don't think you're going to stay in that group. I don't think you're going to keep doing what you've been doing. And, you know, you really discover who you are and why you want it. And, you know, the reasons are different for everybody, but you've got to know your own. And like, no reading is going to solve for that.
And no coach is going to solve that. Coach. No service is going to solve that.
No template.
There's no template. There's no magic pill button fix. Nothing.
Well, and that's always the work, right? It's going to always be the work. And I think that that's what some people think, that there's going to be this magic moment that you get to. And it's like, no, entrepreneurship it doesn't have to be like a really scary grind all the time, but it is a grind, and there are parts of it that are a hustle, and you're always going to be needing to move things forward.
Well, we were talking before we hit record in the room here today, and we were talking about how, like, it's not all these dopamine highs all the time. Like, you spend a lot of time in the trough, in the valley, and it just like your life is like 75% or more, in quotes, mundane activities, but like the simple things. And it's like in business, if you don't enjoy the trough, if you don't like being down there, I do. I have a whole garden down there. Like, I've got animals and a garden, and like, it's great. And like, I do the work. I love doing the work. On my worst days, I'm like, I love working from home. Me too. But I'm like, if you are like, whoa, no, I don't feel like that. It's like time to do some reflection. Like, what do you want? And then the thing that I think is so cool, and I think what will happen in 2025 is that more of this hybrid type world that we live in will start to, like, the society will form language around it. Cause I don't think that societally we have language for it yet. We just say like COVID, post COVID, you know, and what they mean is like on Zoom, off Zoom, you know, and like, and regular employers are really struggling right now with the whole, like, return to the office thing. And like, that is unsettled. And I actually really feel like the majority of people will start to become hybrid. Not necessarily next year, but like, we'll start to become more hybrid, where it's like you have a job and it provides you stability. And we still need that in this world, but you have like a really rich side hustle life.
Yeah.
And because I think most people, when we look at the online entrepreneurship community in general, especially, that honestly is the ideal picture for most. I think we're the weirdos where we're like, I love writing the uncertainty and the high and the low. Like I will take it every day
over a job job,
over the job job, you know, and then you've got some people who are on the opposite end of the spectrum who are also like not,
I just want some damn stability.
Yeah.
Like, well, then this is not the space for you. Right?
Yes. And I think those people actually don't really have as big a problem. I think some of the people maybe got laid off during COVID, and then they were like, let me try to find work somewhere. And they were like, but I think they've already left the entrepreneurship space. They knew, they bounced as soon as they could, and the hiring was good. And at the end of 2021, and they were like, woohoo, I got a job again, you know?
It's the in between, the people who are kind of in between.
And I think it's the majority. It's the bell curve. It's the middle of the bell curve. And because the world is set up so well to have side hustles and hybridization, you know, I think it's the thing that allows you to, say, monetize your hobby, or to pull in the sponsorships because you've got your book talk bookshelves and you just want to like go live every night, or whatever it is you do, right? And you get paid by sponsors to, you know, showcase some product or something. Like, those are really valid things. And they fuel economics and so many things that we do. It just doesn't seem as like glamorous, like impressive. I think we're still stuck on this, like, I've got to be the captain of the football team, or the captain or the head cheerleader mentality. And it's like, no, but actually there's no cheer squad without a base.
Right. That's true.
And it's like, there's nothing wrong with being a base. Everybody cannot be a flyer.
Yeah.
Everybody's not a flyer. And
you don't have to be a celebrity
No.
to own a business.
No, you do not.
And that's the thing. Like, I still haven't really quite found that in my, but I've worked in entertainment, and I still love entertainment, and I've gone back into doing more and more media increasingly. And one of like the big questions I have asked a lot of people this past year is, okay, this is a private space. You don't have to worry about feeling stupid or anything, but it's like, when you say you want this, like, what kind of voice are you talking about? Are you saying you want to be famous? And I'm not saying you got to be Kim Kardashian here, but like, do you have a desire in your heart to be famous? And like, I saw this article this week where they were talking about how that is a really normal thing for humans, because notoriety means you get taken care of by the tribe. You don't get forgotten and left out. And so I think it's like a normal human reaction to want notoriety of some sort. But it's like, how do you want that? In what way do you want that? Because to feel special in your life is a very important thing. And it's like, but that then invites in a whole like life development therapy where it's like, oh, so you're dissatisfied in your marriage and like people don't pay attention to you and you feel marginalized. So you're like taking it out on your business, trying to do this thing, right? Like, that's just a really random ass example. But it's a legitimate question though, because influencer model is a legitimate business model, and we poo-poo it. Why? Because women. Because
mostly women.
How frivolous is it to be a makeup influencer or a fashion influencer, but they make bank?
Right. Yeah. Exactly. And some are really, really smart business people.
Very.
And they're doing it well, and they're doing it great. And there's nothing wrong with that. And if you want to be famous, there is nothing wrong with that want or that desire or that aspiration. However, you don't have to be to be successful.
Right. And I saw that in entertainment, because it's like, you go to LA and it's like, everybody's got a dream. It's one of the cool things about LA. Everybody's starting something. Everybody's got a dream. It's not weird.
Yeah.
And the desire to be famous is rife everywhere in that town. But there are people who are famous in their own right. Let's say as a character actor, but they're not Brad Pitt.
Right. Oh my God. I love those Brady Bunch squares where they're like, you know who all these male or female actors are? Can you name them? And I'm like, not fucking one of them, but they're like that person in that. Yeah.
I always love like the example of like Flo from Progressive. So she has a really great career. And like, she plays this little character piece on not little, she plays a large character piece on a commercial series that she's been doing for a very long time now.
Oh, totally.
And so I think this gets into like what you asked earlier, Tory, which is like, why the fiction stuff? And it's like, because when you broaden your viewpoint and you look around, you're like, oh, A, there's something for everybody. And B, like, I can figure out where I fit in all of this. One person's famous person is another person's who. Like, and you see that in the book industry where it's like one person's Sarah J. Maas is another person's, little niche dark romance writer. But that little niche dark romance writer's got a rabid fan base, and they are making so much money doing what they love. And there's nothing wrong with any of it. But like, if you're muddling around because you're just like, I'm going to copy Sarah J. Maas, or I'm going to copy this thing over here, then you end up on a slippery slope. And then you're like, why am I so unhappy?
It's because it's not you.
Because it's not you.
It's not you.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to get kicked out of here at some point because I think that they close at 5. So we should wrap up.
I think
that is a good. We do have a good wrapping up point. So I have one for sure question for you. And that is, because we're asking everybody on season 2 this, what is on repeat on your playlist?
Oh, I forgot to look at my playlist. Wait, define playlist. Like music or movies? Or
we were going to
say music because we're making a Spotify playlist of it.
So yeah, what are you listening to the most?
What do you binge listen to right now?
I mean, I kind of have a very eclectic music taste.
It doesn't matter.
That's perfect.
And I don't want to pick something really common. Like, I know everyone's into Chapel Roan right now, and I have enjoyed. I have enjoyed her a lot.
Cher just like remastered an entire album, and it's like my psych up mix now.
Yeah. You know what? I'm gonna go with. I've been listening. I have a lot of things on repeat.
Choose 2.
2.
I'm limiting you to choices. You can look at your phone. That is totally possible too.
Let's see. What does Mary have on her phone?
See, my Spotify is going to be skewed because there's a lot of Disney on it right now.
Well, I mean, you have a kiddo.
Yeah. That's what
Okay.
happens.
Let's do, well, I make playlists, you know. Oh, we could do 2024. God bless
did it
Apple
already?
Music.
It already came out, the replay? Okay. Yeah,
Well,
put it on mine.
2024 is out.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, you know, I always listen to U2. I am a
Oh.
U2 girl at heart. So,
It's a good one.
U2 Where the Streets Have No Name.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Panic at the Disco.
I love Panic at the
Yes.
Disco.
Which song specifically?
High Hopes.
Yeah,
Mhm.
good one.
It's a good one. When I'm low, Elton John, Goodbye Yellow Brick Road.
Perfect.
Mhm.
Psycho Killer, specifically the one by the Rex.
Mm,
That one's really good.
I have to just look at this.
I
Can't hold
listen
us.
to Macklemore.
Yep. Nope.
Take Me to Church is a good
that.
one.
There's some Taylor Swift on here. Nathaniel Rateliff is amazing.
Mhm.
Dua Lipa.
Mhm.
Teddy Swims is fun. He's been great.
Mhm.
Harry Styles, duh.
Yeah.
Chapel Run. Oh, Manskin, the Italian group. They have the cover of I Want to Be Your Slave is good, but they have the cover of, where is it? It's probably in here somewhere. Wow, I have a lot of music in here. I will send it to you. And then The Dead Weather, Hanging from the Heavens. That one's good too. I listen to everything. Sarah Bareilles. I mean,
I was gonna say
Perfect.
your stuff is
The
like all over the
Smiths,
place.
love the Smiths. Always
Yeah.
love the
Great.
Smiths.
Sam
Borns.
Smith.
Oh, do you know he's from Michigan?
No, it's not.
No, I
From
did not.
Benton Harbor, Michigan. I learned that in my Apple Music app because they taught me all about him. But yeah, I love Borns, like anything. 10,000 Emerald Pools, Big and Rich, Save a Horse, Ride a Cowboy.
I like
Oh,
it.
that is
I
great.
like it. That's
I was gonna say
perfect.
many of these things end up on my list too. So Catch and Release also
Catch and
really
Release is
great.
good. Oh, Marion Hill is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
80s, Take on Me.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Bittersweet Symphony also really great.
Mm-hmm.
Boss Bitch by Doja Cat
Oh,
also very
Manskin
great.
does Beggin', which was originally Frankie Valli in the
Okay.
Four
Oh,
Seasons.
yeah.
I actually love the Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons version
Mhm.
more.
Okay.
Got a little Billie Eilish on here, a little bit of
Okay.
The Weeknd, Saint Mattel,
So Mary has contributed 35 songs
Depeche
to the
Mode.
playlist.
Sam Smith. I listen. I and I fallen in love with Shawn Mendes this year.
Nice.
It's a good one.
There's Nothing Holding Me Back. It's good.
Yep.
You want Busta Rhymes? I got
I
Guns
mean,
N' Roses
Welcome
on
to the
here.
Jungle is on there too, which is also a
That's
really great.
perfect.
This is my
song.
2024 replay so far.
I know.
I love
Now
that.
you're like,
Now I need to
wow,
see what's
you
on mine.
are.
I love this.
I haven't
It's
opened this
it's
up yet.
everything.
Everything.
Yeah.
Just depends on.
And that's not even my classical list.
Oh gosh.
Because I'm originally a classical musician, so I've got like a whole classical thing too.
That's perfect. That's
Um,
perfect.
Oh, Pink Martini.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
Pink Martini. It's a good one.
I do love me some Pink Martini.
Okay, well, we'll have like 20 songs to add to
We're
our.
gonna have a ton for her.
I mean,
This
I
is
can give
perfect.
you, I've got a list for pole dancing. I've got
I love this.
a list for rainy days. I've got a list for running. It's like 5 hours long. I don't know who would run for 5. Well, if I ever did a marathon, I would never run out of music. Oh, no, actually, now it's 6 hours and 17 minutes. No, it's not.
How
There
do
you go.
you have the 2024 on repeat? It hasn't even showed up on mine
I don't know.
yet.
It popped up one day and then I added it.
Oh,
I have a list for ukulele so I could try to learn the songs.
nice.
There's an acoustic version of Better Days that is so
Perfect.
good.
Awesome.
I am not anywhere near doing that. And then I have other playlists from workshops that I used to run during COVID because I would always DJ up the music. So I have those. And then I have my like Latin beats playlist, which is a whole other thing because I'm a salsa dancer, so
Of course.
I gotta have
That's
them.
perfect.
All your things, man.
Oh,
What do you listen to while you ice skate?
Actually, I listen to podcasts.
That's smart.
Hilarious.
I like that. I like
I
that.
listen to my romance podcasts.
I love that.
Romance book podcasts. So people don't know when I'm skating around that I'm listening to them analyze.
I should send you
Romantasy.
some ones I've just randomly found on Audible recently.
Oh,
I found some really cute ones.
Okay. Yeah.
And I'm working on the ones you loaned me.
Lent.
Those are you can say it
Those
because
are-
it will.
Those are
yes.
next.
Uh-huh.
Those are next. So I just finished a book
Oh, I can't wait.
yesterday, and then those are next. And I'm hoping to at least have the first one done by our next thing, so we can talk about it.
They're fast reads.
Okay, perfect.
Those were Tanya Kubo recommendation.
Oh,
They're just apparently straight erotica.
Nice.
So I'm really looking
By
forward to it.
Tamsin Parker.
Mhm.
I do appreciate her as a writer.
Mm-hmm.
But they are
The ultimate smut.
They are like 6 chili peppers.
Nice.
I'm excited.
They're educational.
It's true. It is very true.
I don't think that's a bad thing.
I
It's
don't
not
think
a
so
bad
either.
thing. All right, friends.
All right. Well, thank you so much for listening. Thank you for being on the podcast
Thanks for
again.
being with
We're
us again.
basically
Thanks
just
for
going to have
having
you
me.
back as much as we
I'll talk to
possibly
you
can.
Anytime.
Anytime.
Lovely.
We love it. Before we wrap up, is there anything you want to plug?
Oh, so many things. Well, I mean, I have my paid newsletter that comes out every Sunday. So there's a free reading that goes out every Saturday. And then on Sunday, I've got folks like you who subscribe to the Sunday newsletter. And so every week I channel readings with Akashic Records and I use tarot cards. And it's just for business. So that has been a really, really great space. I have enjoyed offering that so much. And so that is happening. I'm sure I'll be running a retreat for reading during 2025. So stay tuned for that. So get on the
We'll be
email
there.
list. Yeah.
We'll all be there.
We'll all be
Don't
there.
worry.
I'm still podcasting and I am slowly but surely shifting out of just straight up coaching and more into like supporting people with media production. So that is also coming down the pipeline more rigorously in the new year. But the main thing really is the newsletter.
Okay.
We are supporters of your newsletter.
Yes.
We love it very
Thank
much. So
Yeah.
highly encourage people to check it out. And thank you, listeners and watchers. Viewers? Maybe is a better
yeah.
word for that. Watchers.
Watchers. Well, you really are reading Dark Romance right now.
Well, until next time, we will see y'all later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the Take the Leap podcast. We hope you found useful takeaways you can apply to your entrepreneurial journey. Subscribe so you don't miss future episodes, and keep in touch and follow us on Instagram. If you have business questions, shoot us a direct message or leave us a comment. We'll try to cover it in an upcoming episode. And visit our website, taketheleap-today.com for more resources like our online course that accompanies this podcast. Thank you for listening to the Take the Leap podcast. We hope you found useful takeaways you can apply to your entrepreneurial journey. Subscribe so you don't miss future episodes, and keep in touch and follow us on Instagram. If you have business questions, shoot us a direct message or leave us a comment. We'll try to cover it in an upcoming episode. And visit our website, taketheleap-today.com, for more resources like our online course that accompanies this podcast.